Sooner Nation, Thunder Nation, we are back. This is the Just Okay Sports Podcast. That's Just Oklahoma Sports Podcast. We talk a lot of Sooners, talk a lot of Thunder, and not only that, but it's not the greatest thing on planet Earth, and that's why it's just okay. I'm one of your village idiots, Daryl. I'm here with my brother, Jared, aka J-Rod. And don't forget to like, subscribe, follow, leave comments, do all the things that make us feel good about ourselves while you're at it. Jared, how are you feeling about yourself tonight, sir?
I'm feeling good. I'll actually start you off with a funny Florida. Well, it's not really a Florida man story, but a funny Florida story.
Okay.
So I woke up this morning and like didn't really have any like morning calls. I was like, I'm gonna go ahead and grab my mail because I'm like the worst about forgetting to go get my mail after work.
Okay.
So I was like, I'm always like the weirdo like gives my mail at like 9 o'clock, you know what I mean, at night. And people are like, what are you doing? Anyway, so I was like, I'm actually gonna wake up and go get it. So like I went out this morning, it was like mid 60s. It was like 65, 66, something like that outside. And I walk outside and for one I'm in shorts and a t-shirt.
Mm-hmm.
And my neighbor was outside doing something like excuse me, in his flower beds. And he was like, oh, hey, like how you doing? Blah blah. And he's like, oh, winter's finally here, huh? And I was like, it's in the 60s, bro. Like, and he was like in like a jacket and like they like, I mean,
Right.
ready for winter. I was like, bro, all right. I don't know. It's like everybody down here is like freaking out. It is in the 50s right now here. It's 59 degrees currently. So fun stuff. But yeah, it's like everybody down here, it's like it's if it gets to the 60s, everybody acts like it's snowing. It's kind of hilarious.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
I could
but
see that.
yeah, but no, it's good. Things are good. My dog is losing his mind already, so that's wouldn't be the podcast without him doing that. Um, but yeah, no, things are good. How are things in? I hear it's a little bit colder, and I guess it was actually sunny today.
It was sunny and nice today. Yesterday for trick or treating was miserable, especially as the sun started to go down. The wind chill got into the upper to mid 20s. So it was really funny. Tal went with a friend in our neighborhood, our son, to go trick or treat with some buddies. And he probably called about 8:15, 8:30 and said, "Hey, we're done. We've hit the whole neighborhood. We're sorting. Come get me." I said, "Okay." And when I left, I told Evan, I was like, it was super eerie because the neighborhood was like pitch black because by 8:15, everybody had turned their porch lights and their garage lights off to basically tell trick-or-treaters we're done, because people started so early. Everyone was running out of candy by 8 o'clock because it was so cold. So even Gibson did like 10 houses and was like, I'm done. Take me home and warm me up. We were like, all right, bro, like we can do that. So but yeah, it's been chilly today, but it's supposed to get better and better. And then game weekend wise, the weather's supposed to be like perfection in Stillwater on Saturday. It's supposed to be like 70 degrees, I think like 65 at kickoff and maybe like 75 by the end of the game. So
So
um
we're not gonna have any cold and rainy excuses for not throwing the ball down the field.
yeah, no, we should not this go around. Yeah, we can talk more about that if you like, but we kind of hit all that. But before we talk about, like, it is Bedlam week, so before we talk about the game itself, can we please talk about offensive lineman Dalton Cooper? Can we hit this please? And this whole, if you haven't seen it, you can go, I don't remember who it was that posted it, but Dalton Cooper was interviewed post practice, and what did he say? Said my hometown, every person I knew that was an OSU fan went to the school. And while every person I knew that was an OU fan never went here. And we're a little more loyal and true here at OSU. And I'm like, I still don't understand why this is a negative.
Because it's a Colt.
Because it's a cult.
Oh man, I actually forgot my boy Brady. Hopefully he's listening. He actually messaged me for my birthday on Sunday. Or we actually talked on the phone for a little bit, and it's wild because like we were talking about it, and you know, my boy Brady, he went to Oklahoma State, And so
Right.
we have like a little friendly rivalry there, or whatever. And it used to be like we were both in college and stuff. It was like we talked a lot of trash, and it was, and we've actually established this rule, by the way, that now we only have trash talk. I think it's like 10 or 15 minutes before the game and 10 to 15 minutes after the game. And after that, like we just go back to being friends, whatever. But like it's so funny to me because they just have like a different outlook, I guess, on things. I don't know, like it's like they have a very much like they I don't want to describe it besides they have the little brother attitude and they're proud of it. You know what I mean? Like I don't really know. It's just a whole different like think, and like having been friends with him and been to Stillwater like when it wasn't Bedlam and all these sorts of things. It's like I don't know. It's just this weird like outlook. There's nothing. They always hate OU. And they always come up with every reason they can possibly think of to like disparage OU in the sense of like, well, we're a better school, or we like it's like, and
Well,
they always find some weird thing. But like you said, this doesn't make any sense. This flex doesn't make any sense to me. It's like, cool, your fan base is, you don't have enough fans to fill up your stadium that holds 60,000 people. You know what I mean? So
right.
yeah, that's a cool flex, I guess.
I well, I loved somebody replied and said, "Well, then tell your high school and middle school kids that they're not allowed to watch and cheer for OSU this week, whether you went to the school, or not. Since they didn't go, they're not allowed to cheer
Yes,
for said school."
yeah, by that logic, I guess we can't cheer for the Thunder because I haven't ever played for the Thunder. I've never been a part of that organization. Um,
I mean,
you know,
I get that there's a bigger attachment or whatever if you went to school there and all those things. You did, I didn't, right, to OU. At the same time, they didn't have my major. Like, what do you want me to do? Like, I wanted to go to OU, but it's like I want to study this. They don't do it. So what do we do there? Like, or how about OSU gives me a scholarship, OU doesn't? Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's just weird. And then what even got better though is people started digging through his Twitter timeline and found out that he basically grew up an OU fan.
yeah. Let's talk about Baker being the goat, and
Yes.
um,
Oh,
yeah. I mean, like, look, it's one of those things. Like, I never understood the argument. Um, like I understand the argument of like I'm alumni, so I'm going to cheer for the school I went to or whatever. That's fair. It's like we both went to the same high school. We're still gonna, we don't keep up with
yeah.
them as much, but we're gonna cheer for them. But it's like I don't know. I just don't understand that argument, because it's like, well, okay, so if you went to like a D2 school, you just or a D3 school, or a school that didn't have football,
Right.
you're just not allowed to watch football now. Like you're not
Right.
allowed to have
Right.
a fandom. Like I don't understand the argument, but and like I said, it's one of those things of there's things that are certainly like I know people that went to OSU that are still OU fans, but it's like because they went for, like you said, something that OSU offered and not OU.
Right.
It's just one of those things. Like we all grow up and it's the same thing. It's like why I know people that live in all across the country. I know people live in Oklahoma that are like, I don't, I'm trying to think of an example. Like I know somebody that's a giant Philadelphia Eagles fan. They have never lived in
Right.
Pennsylvania,
In Philadelphia. Right.
but their family is all Philadelphia Eagles fans. So it's like why? But you're saying because they're the team. Like I don't, you know what I mean? Like they don't live in
Right. It
Philadelphia,
doesn't
so they're
make, again,
barred.
I get that college is different. There's an attachment if you're an alumni, also, but to say like,
It's just saying
just
it's the weird argument, because it just all it does is show that your brand isn't worth enough for people outside
yeah,
of Stillwater and your alumni
yes.
base to care. That's
Right.
what it
Yeah.
is.
That's the thing. That's the thing that makes it just dumb and ridiculous. But anyways, dude, last Bedlam for a while. Um, Based on uh just some different folks I've talked to. And by the way, if the recording of this gets a little glitchy, our internet is very in and out right now. We are not sure why, so we apologize for that if it is a little bit laggy or breaky. We're trying to see what we can do about it. But anyways, back to the last Bedlam, from all that I've heard on both sides, I do think that there was some attempts early to try to get Bedlam to move forward again. It feels like now it's going to take a lot for Bedlam to come back anytime soon at all. And so, with that all being said, I'm curious, Jared, for you, kind of, do you have your most memorable moments of Bedlam? Kind of your big, huge things that were just like, that was the epic moment. That was one I'll never forget, or whatever it is. But kind of, what are some of your best moments? Because you've got to go to more Bedlam games live as well than I have. So
Yeah, I mean, man, the best probably in person one, even though it sucked to be there, it was the most miserable experience of my life, was the Ice Bowl. I don't even, what year was that? 2012, 13, somewhere in there. Um, that was when it was like the whole state was like, I literally had to drive how
yes.
it's like 2 hours in ice. Not even, it was like 3.5 hours in ice and snow to get to the game.
Was that the Blake
Um,
Bell game?
yes, that's one where we were leading, like we came back at the very end. I was freezing. So shout out to my boy Brady again. Worked at OSU. I don't know if I was just riding. He's out. He doesn't work there anymore. Who cares? He got me tickets. Because he gets 2 free tickets
Right.
or whatever. And so he gave me his 2 free tickets because he worked for the team. And he was like, look, don't show up with anything OU that's exposed when you at least go to get the tickets. Like when you're going in the stadium and all that, keep it covered up. He's like, once you're in the stands, I don't care, whatever, it's
Right.
Bedlam, but he's like, they're not going to give you the tickets. Like they literally, he's like, they will not give you the tickets if you show up wearing an OU piece of gear.
Sure. And that makes
And I
sense.
was like, okay, cool. So I went, got the tickets, went in, got in. And what's funny is the whole game, it was so cold that like I had like a really thick North Face jacket.
Hmm.
And so I wore it the whole game. Like, and the only time that I ever showed anything is like at one point, I think I like unzipped it or something, and like there was a couple of fans behind me that saw that I had like an OU shirt on or something. I don't know. They saw red or whatever. And of course that was a whole. I don't even want to talk about the things that they said, but anyway, just being able to see us like come back in that like harsh
Yeah.
environment because they were so into that game. And that was a good one. But the other one is probably the Baker game where he had his Heisman moment. Was at that
Yes.
game when it was like a weird score of like 52-42 or whatever it ended up being or whatever. That's another good one. Um, and then I'll give you the last one. This one's really funny because it's like the most random. Like now when I look back at it, I'm like, maybe it's because it was so long ago that like I have like a harder time remembering. But I was probably only like 17. I probably was 17 or 18 at the time, maybe. And it was me, you, and Evan went to the OU OSU game in Norman. And
Hmm.
Adrian Peterson, it was when Adrian Peterson ran for like 200 and something yards.
Oh, nice.
And I had to sit with Evan because you had
Yeah.
two tickets together and you
Yeah.
had one ticket on its own. And I sat with Evan,
You're right.
and I remember us sitting there, and like there was the play where he just runs. It's like, oh, when you're sitting in the stadium, he runs into the offensive line basically, and like I thought the play was over. I'd already started to sit down. I was like, oh, okay, crap, he got stuffed. And then like Evan's like, he's running, and I was like, what? And I jumped back up, and he's just sprinting down the sideline for a touchdown. Um, and so that was a good one, just because. And I think that was also the same game where Les Miles like talked a bunch of trash, like, well, we're gonna kick their butts or something, and I don't remember what all he said, but Les Miles, remember that guy? But
Yeah.
yeah, there's so many good moments. I mean, it's hard to pick. We win 90% of them, so you know.
Yeah, but that one, the Brennan Clay overtime run is one of the most classic memories for me, of Bedlam. Not only that, I was just a huge fan of Brendan Clay coming out of high school. I thought he was going to be a much more impactful player than he ended up being at OU. And so when he got that run to ice it, that was just an incredible moment that I'll always remember. And then I wish I could remember what year it may have been the Ice Bowl year because we were not good that year. We were a bad team that
Yeah.
year, and OSU fans were definitely in their feelings about winning that. And I can remember a friend of mine, a lady friend, like, and I say friend, acquaintance, like not dating, anything like that, but she was a huge OSU fan. And she basically spent the 14 days leading up to Bedlam, like doing like OU versus OSU, like jokes, jabs, trash talk. And when OU pulled out that victory with the Blake Bell throw to Jalen Saunders, dude, she got roasted. And just like we've talked about, like how it always goes, right? I can't believe you fans are so that, and it's like you can't go 14 days just slamming. And then when people bounce back at you, losing your mind. So that one sticks out. Really big as well. So those are probably the two for me in my lifetime that were just epic moments in the rivalry, for sure. So those are probably my two. It'll
It's
definitely be
it's
missed.
yeah, it's honestly like it's funny to me because like I understand. Honestly perfectly understand why OSU doesn't want to schedule Bedlam in the future because it's pretty much a free L on their record.
Yeah.
You know, it's historically it's not been good for them. So I get it, but it's like I think most OU fans would love to see it come back, but that's not going to happen. I mean, because of the things we're. I mean,
Yeah. Not
you know,
soon. It will
yeah.
eventually. I think it will eventually make its way back, but I do think it's going to take some time and a lot of work to get there. So,
Well, Texas A&M is. I mean,
yeah, that's a good point.
it just not. It's only coming back because they're going to be in the SEC together.
That's a really good point. Yeah, we'll have to see. Who knows? Well, let's dive into this game and let's start with this. The injury report is not great. The injury report is not great. So let's walk it through. I would say Stutzman, Brent Venable's words were hopeful. I know that Danny Stutzman is hopeful. I'm just going to tell you straight up, I'm not. I'm going to continue to say, based on the video footage of that injury, I know that Danny's going to do everything he can to get on the field. And I'm sure if he's 70 or 75%, he's probably still going to play some. I don't know that that's the best option for this team. And so, we'll see. And I would even venture to say he might start the game. I'm not hopeful that he's going to play the whole game. I could easily
I
see him playing a half or a quarter and then not being available.
I think if he's able to go 4 quarters in the sense that he's still playing in the fourth quarter, it's going to be with heavy rotation with Kip.
Yeah.
And honestly, I think, I mean, we have a very small sample size, but I think when you look at Kip, I think Kip at 100% is better than Danny at 70%.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how they play that,
I mean,
right?
I think, I think the interesting thing is I think Danny is going to have to, um, he's gonna have to have his leadership on the sidelines
Yeah.
regardless. He's just gonna have to be a leader at
Yeah.
whatever capacity. If he doesn't have pads on or not, he's going to have like, be the leader in this game.
Yeah. 100%. Towie Walker, I don't know how I feel about this one. I haven't talked to anybody about him specifically, but man, listening to Gabe and Teddy and a few others, it does not sound hopeful very much for Towie, which is very deflating for this game. He'd be a huge impact for sure.
Yeah, I mean,
Um,
Towie's going to be. He was the best running back. He is the best running back on the roster right now.
yeah, and
So,
it
but
and it appears it was really funny. There was some call-in stuff this week, some spaces, even radio show stuff. That I tried to reach out to some of the insiders and all that stuff. And I just kept asking, what's the story with the freshman running backs? What's the story with the freshman running backs? What's the story with the freshman running backs? No one will respond. Like, no one will answer the question of if Towie's hurt and if Major's hurt and if Barnes really isn't 100%, why are we not playing one of these freshman running backs? And I can't get an answer from anybody. Like nobody will even touch it. It is like I get full on ghosted. If I ask about other stuff, I get hitbacks. But if I ask about stinking the freshman running backs, I just don't know if people don't know. I don't know if there's something going on there they don't want to talk about. I don't get it. But there's
Well,
nothing.
I think there's got to be some form of criteria that we're not privy to, because I mean, I know we keep getting told practice, but I don't know how I can buy that.
Yeah.
Because it's like I understand. Like, I think we both had those coaches that had that philosophy. You have to practice well to play well,
Sure.
and to a huge degree, I agree with that, right? But there was also times that those same coaches were like got pressed to the position of, we just have to play this kid and see if he's going to rise to the occasion,
Exactly.
and they're not doing that. If that were the case, let's just go with the practice thing is true. Why are you not giving a guy a chance to rise to the occasion? I understand, unless he's just like not caring in practice.
Yeah.
I don't get it.
Yeah. Yeah. It's an interesting situation. Let's run down the list of others that seem much more hopeful. Obviously, Gentry Williams, the report was he was at practice Monday and Tuesday. So that seems better. But man, interesting because he didn't even dress out last week. So again, we'll see what happens there. Matauer still banged up. You're hoping that he gets a little more healthy. I continue to hear that Rouse has got some kind of lingering injury as well. Like nothing major, nothing's going to keep him out of the game, but you hope he gets healthy this week. Marcus Major, obviously Barnes. And I'm going to add one more on there. And we did not talk about this, and it's been funny. No one's asked this question specifically, but I started to wonder this. Towie tweaks the ankle, right? And then Barnes came in the game. Did Sawchuk tweak the hamstring? It's what it leads me to believe, right? That Barnes is not like, look, the conversation 2 weeks ago was that Barnes was going to get shut down for the season. Mm-hmm. And then in this game, Towie gets banged up, Major's not playing, and all of a sudden Barnes shows up in the most critical series of the entire game and maybe of the season. It seems to me that maybe Sawchuk tweak that hamstring again, and we might need to be watching for that this week as well.
I mean, very, very possible, right? I mean,
it's been weird that nobody's asked that. Like that hasn't even been a talking point of everybody's just like, why did you put Barnes in? And then they get to dance around it, but no one said, did Sawchuk tweak the hamstring again? Is that why you went with Barnes? And they're not going to say it if you don't ask it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. That the whole situation's weird. I don't understand. I mean, but it's again, it's one of those things. The reason I go back to there's got to be some criteria we're not privy to is the weirdness of rotation applies it across every position group.
Yeah, correct.
So like that's where I'm like having to go like it's got to be some team criteria or whatever that like he's just not gonna say or not able to say or doesn't whatever, I don't know, because it's like the offensive line, the receivers, even we've talked about even sometimes the linebackers and secondary, it hasn't made a lot of sense. I don't really know that I mind the defensive line rotation as much. Not to say I probably haven't had complaints about it, but it also feels like pretty much the good thing about the defensive line. I mean, we're going to get into it a little bit, I know, but it's not like you have some crazy Gerald McCoy player. This isn't really a good thing, but you don't have like a Gerald McCoy player that's just so dominant that you have to play him every snap. So it's hard to complain as much there. But anyway.
Yeah, for sure. So, all right, well, let's dive into the game itself. That's the injury kind of report. And again, I know that's not detailed exactly, but they're obviously trying to keep it tight-lipped as well. So we'll see what happens as we move forward. So let's start defensively, Jared. Let's start on that end for the Sooners defensively. What are you watching? And it seems as a lot of people just want to break this down to you stop the running back and everything's going to be fine, right? Like Ollie Gordon, as long as you stop it, that's it. How do you see it that way? And what are you looking for defensively?
I mean, yes, to some degree, I guess. I mean, Ollie Gordon's obviously the best player on their team. He's the best running back one of the best running backs in college football right now. So yeah, you're gonna have to stop him to win the game. Uh, on the other end of things, I even tweeted this at Teddy and Gabe. I think it's going to come down to the linebackers playing sound gap discipline, having sound gap discipline, right? Being there and run support, but also when they have to drop in coverage, doing a good job because we have seen them get a little bit lost at times.
Yeah.
And OSU does a lot of interesting things. I mean, I haven't got to watch every one of their games. From the understanding I've gotten from the OSU people I've talked to, is like their OC is a little bit like Levy, where sometimes you're scratching your head as to what he's doing. But at the same time, it's like with the way Ollie Gordon is, it's like you don't want to leave the middle of the field. You can't just run downhill and just try to stop Ollie Gordon. You're going to have to cover this middle of the field. You're going to have guys out in coverage. Like they have skill position guys. But I think, like I said, it is one of those things. I think to me, obviously the defensive line is going to also, but I think the biggest factor in this game is going to be linebacker play, which again sucks to hear that because of Danny Stutzman and we not knowing if he's going to be 100%. But to me, that's where it's going to start. I mean, yes, you have to slow. I don't think you're going to stop Ollie Gordon, but you have to slow him down.
Yeah.
And you have to make sure that it's not something that you have to, like I said, you have to give up that discipline to be able to do.
Yeah. Yeah. I get that. I think this game starts and stops with the defensive line defensively. And last week, I didn't talk about it much in the review. The more I watched that game, and even while I was watching it some, but really after watching the replay of it all the way through, it felt like the D-line had been coached to catch offensive linemen and just hold the line, right? Like, don't get out of position. Don't give anything up so Bean can't run around us, right? And don't worry about going after him very much. You can't do that this week. And I understand the run lanes. You don't want to, break run integrity in your lane. But I feel like the defensive line every snap has to fire off the ball and just create chaos. Push linemen backwards. Because here's the other thing. Ollie Gordon is not a small dude. That's a big old dude. And literally the more I watch the tape, I think of an old clip that Jamal Adams in the NFL. I remember watching a clip of him one time, and I don't remember who it was, like doing a film breakdown of one of his games. And they said, you blitz right here, and this is something you're known for. How do they call these up? And Jamal Adams goes, that's not a called blitz. And the guy goes, what are you, like, what? He goes, but you blitz right at the snap. And he goes, yeah, but I'm in cover 3. And he's like, what happened? He goes, well, what I could see is this alignment. We knew they like to run out of this alignment. And I noticed that the right guard doesn't have his hand flat on the ground. So I knew he was pulling. So as soon as I saw him in pull motion, I triggered. And the reason was he was playing Leonard Fournette. And he said, look, Leonard Fournette, you don't want having any momentum coming at you. You want him jump cutting and going laterally and trying to bring him down. So as soon as I saw the pull, I just shot the gap. I didn't care that I had cover 3. I went because you don't want it. And I feel like that's Ollie Gordon. You don't want him having momentum because he's going to fall forward, right? And he's going to gain yards. And so the D line just has to go nuts, especially in the middle. Snap the guard, snap the center backwards. And look, I'm not going to try to pretend like Alan Bowman is not Landry Jones, like in mobile, but he's Landry Jones in mobile. Like he's right in that category. If Alan Bowman runs for 80 yards on us, we have way bigger problems than gap integrity. You know what I'm saying? So go for broke, cause chaos, and then I think the linebackers, I'm with you in the same way. But yes, it all starts and stops with Ollie Gordon to me. Like you've got to make them one-dimensional. Get them to 3rd and 12. Get them to 3rd and 9, 3rd and 8, and let's see what happens from there, right? And go that route. Now, the other thing that I will say is some of the things that they do in the offense is interesting. Watching the film on Kansas last week, right? Kansas was very shifts, motions, a different formation every single play. They do zone blocking, they do gap blocking, they do pin pull, they do like it's just a barrage of things. OSU does not motion a ton. They do some, but they don't shift like crazy like Kansas does. But what's interesting, like I sent you and Troy a play, they did a pin pull kind of gap scheme look, right? The right side of the line of OSU against Kansas totally pins down everybody on that side. They pull the guard and tackle around from the left to the right. So everything about the action looks as though the run's going to the right side of the offense, right? And Ollie Gordon takes like one shuffle step that way and then just shoots out left, and they literally just immediately pitch it to him like a quick pitch, right? So in other words, the shifting and motions don't mess with your eyes. The actual action is going right, and then they ran it left, which was a really interesting concept, and it totally tricked Kansas defense like crazy. That's from the linebacker side, the things they're going to have to deal with, right? It's a lot of that kind of stuff that they do. They did a screenplay. I'm not even going to lie to you, man. Like watching it like on video, I was like, wait, what just happened? Because the timing of the lineman was so good and the look was so good. I didn't even see the screen coming. And once they threw it to the screen, I was like, oh, that was a screen the whole way. I mean, it was that well timed. And those kinds of things are the things that are going to get OU's defense in trouble, I think, this week, is if they're not sound in that. All the throws I saw, very much timing throws, quick slants, quick outs, quick hooks. But I will say this, Bowman has the ball out of his hand well before the break. Everything is in time and in rhythm. And so the defense is going to have to put some pressure on him, but they also do a lot of max protect. So that's going to be really tough, right? To do those kinds of things. Was there anybody from the receiver side of things that worries you, that you saw in there? I mean, obviously they've got Presley. There's the kid that just played last week that went nuts, right? Like for like 130 yards or something last week.
Yeah, I mean, it feels like a weird. I mean, I think they have some guys, right? But I don't feel like it's like one of those groups that they have a lot of solid guys. But I don't know that they have a superstar, in my opinion. Um, which is like kind of a good and a bad thing, right? Because, like you said, anybody can have a good night. So you have to play sound against. You have to play tough against all of them. So I mean, in the receiving, not really. I mean, but I like again, it's not a disrespect to the receiving core. I think it's really good. I just don't know that I see a superstar there.
Yeah, for sure. Sound tackling, that kind of stuff. And same thing. I mean, even the passing game, two of the bigger pass plays that I saw in all my film study stuff was just a guy getting beat because they didn't maintain right leverage, right bust kind of stuff. So mental stuff. The other one was, and I posted it on Twitter. You can go look at it at Just Okay Sport. But Bowman stares at the outside receiver on what looks like a bubble kind of route, and stares at it hard. The middle linebacker just flows out to it immediately while Ollie Gordon just kind of works his way to the middle. And Bowman literally kind of does a no look. He's looking out to the flat and then just dumps without looking. And because that linebacker read the eyes and flowed so hard, he creates the space, right? So in other words, the linebacker's got to do his job. The ball's going out there, great, but until the ball leaves his hand, you got to do your job. And you can't try and go help the corner and the safety on their job. If you do, you're going to create the angles for them. Now, I will also say this. In the Kansas game, in the first half alone, Bowman threw a deep ball into double coverage that was double covered right from the get-go. And honestly, if the safety coming over the top locates the ball instead of trying to locate the receiver, might pick it off. There was another one that was supposed to be a bubble. It kind of gets covered up. He gets some pressure. He's not sure what to do and just kind of flings it out there. And same thing, if the DB literally runs past the bubble guy. So he's literally a yard further in the backfield, if that makes sense. And if he just plays the receiver, he picks it or knocks it down at worst. And then Kansas had a pick six that they dropped that was right in the breadbasket of the corner who reads it and just dropped it. And I mean, catches it. If he catches it, it is in stride and he's gone. Now, if you put that play in, 4 straight weeks that Bowman's turned the ball over, right? 4 straight weeks that he's turned the ball over. This is a guy that will give you the football. And when we talked about the Texas game, that's what we said, right? Like, this team has a propensity to turn the ball over. And so you have got to take advantage when that happens. You have to hit the layups, as BV says. So when they throw on your breadbasket, Key Lawrence, you have to catch it. You've got to do it and got to make it happen. So those are kind of my thoughts on the defensive end for OU and the things that they've got to take care of. Within that, do you have one or two kind of X factors, one or two guys that are going to make the difference in this game defensively for OU?
Oh man, I'm not going to go. I mean, obviously, like you have to almost say Danny Stutzman and stuff like that if he's ready to go, and whatever. I'm going to go, even though I know he's not the biggest cog in the machine this year. I'm going to go Trace Ford just because like the little bit of a
Yeah.
rivalry game. I've kind of gone back and forth on how I think about it because you saw the clip of Gundy where they were like, Trace Ford's been playing really well. He had a really good play, blah blah, and he was like, oh, did he? I don't really watch. Like I just watch. I don't look at individual players. I just look at And I was like, okay, I understand that to some degree, but it's like that it's Trace Ford, a guy that played for you for years. So
Right.
like that's cap. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
that's a joke to me.
That's the petty side of Gundy right there that comes out.
Yeah. So I would like to see Trace Ford ball out. And then oh man, I'm gonna go because I think regardless, like we talked about, I think he's gonna get run. I'm gonna go Kip Lewis. I'm gonna keep buying stock in my boy.
Yep.
I think if he comes out, he's gonna have a big game. And I think that he's like you said, we talked about how he's a little bit lighter, but I feel like he also hits harder than you would think somebody his
Yeah.
size hits.
Yeah.
So I think that he's if he's going to be in the game, he's going to have to, he's going to be having to wrap up Ollie Gordon and take him to the ground a lot. So I think he's going to be a very important part. So I guess that's probably those two guys. Just I just feel like both of them are going to be able to make big plays.
Right. Yeah, and I agree with you. One of my X factors is just backup linebackers in general. I think Kobe and Kip get run this game, and they both have to be on point. They cannot screw around. They cannot have mental errors. They got to go to work. I think Kip is playing really well. Again, the thing that people don't understand, and I hear a lot of people, I don't understand why we're not playing Kip with Stutzman. Well, because Stutzman's playing the will. Everybody keeps wanting to put Stutzman at the mic. He technically plays the will, which is what Kip plays, right? Now, Stutzman can play both, but they're really trying to get Canick over there. So, but I do think Kip and Kobe get run this game, and they got to play well. They've got to play great. Man, I'm trying to. I tell you what, this is the guy. If this guy can prove this week that he is worthy of staying on the field 90% of the time, I think it changes the game, and that's Dasan McCullough. You go watch that Kansas tape. He's on the field. They struggled to get plays. But when it got into more passing downs, BV did not trust him and kept putting Kendall Dolby out there. And look, Kendall Dolby played fine. But there was a stark difference in that defense with Dasan McCullough on the field compared to Kendall Dolby. And the other guy that I think needs to play this game, literally has to play this game for this defense to be great, is Gentry. The injury to Gentry is huge because he is elite at both. He is elite at tackling. He's elite at coverage. They need him. So I know I did more than two. I'm sorry. But
and also just real quick, I know this is an X factor, but something I don't remember us talking about. Maybe we did. Reggie Pearson is not going to be available for the first half. Of the game, so.
Be buckled up the second half, I would say. I think he's going to be coming with vengeance the second half. And I'm kind of looking forward to, and Ollie Gordon might win it, but there's going to be a collision point between Ollie Gordon and Reggie Pearson in this game, and it's going to be epic, and it's going to be fun to watch. All right, offensively, Jared, what are you watching for, and what do you think the Sooners have to do offensively?
Oh, where to start? After last week, especially. I mean, like you have to find a way. I mean, like, look, it's the same thing we've been talking about all year. And again, this is a major problem. And I really want to like in our postseason whatever reaction pod or whatever. I want to talk about because it's like we've got to not only get the ball going, like I just feel like the running game isn't getting going partially because you can highlight the offensive line, but you're not letting a player get a hot hand. Right, like you don't have anybody that's like truly besides Towie in SMU and like when he has, or I guess Major, you've given him a lot of run. But outside of that, name somebody on the roster at running back that has gotten enough carries to really warm up and get going through a whole game.
Yeah.
I know maybe some people will say Sawchuck in the fourth quarter, but it's like that's a quarter, right? Like you took him out after he had one bad play. So that is what it is. But yeah, I want to say, I mean, I think it's going to come down to the running backs a lot. Whoever it is that's coming out there. I want to see. I'm not saying that somebody needs to get every carry of the game, but you need to get guys that have 25 carries in a game if you're going to run the ball hard.
Mm-hmm.
And not this. Well, we run a guy for 5 plays and then he only gets 2 yards, so we pull him and he sits for 2 quarters. It doesn't make any sense. And then the other thing is I just want to see, I'll say something that's going to make probably Sooner Nation mad. I don't mind a jet sweep every now and then. I don't. I really don't
Right.
care.
Yeah, no, no,
But
no.
but you have to mix it with something else. Nobody's going to respect you if you don't throw the ball downfield. I understand everybody's going to try. Like I said, I've heard every spectrum of defense and whatever for that. I just want to see us to have medium to deep passing game. I
Mm-hmm.
want us to see us be aggressive. I want to see us run slants. We've got guys that can go up and get contested balls. We have Nick Anderson. You have
Right.
Jaden Gibson. And you have players in that receiver room, and you have to use them. And that's going to open it's kind of almost like the opposite of what you would think. I think with this team a little bit, where the passing game can open up the running game,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
And
Totally agree.
that's kind of where we're at with this team. So those are like, I mean, honestly, that's like pretty much my point of the game. Is Levy's going to have to call a good game. He's going to have to be aggressive. You're going to have to throw the ball downfield, and sometimes you're going to have to give your Heisman contending quarterback, a chance to throw the ball downfield and let somebody that you should have faith in to go up and get it. When you have a
Yeah.
what is Nick Anderson, 6'4" or something
Yeah.
crazy?
6'4".
Let him go up. If he gets 1-on-1 with a corner that's 6 foot tall, let him go up and get the ball. That's all I'm saying. So that's where I'm at. That's really, I feel like the offense, like not to say the defense, let me put it this way. The defense has played well enough all year long. And the offense has been the one that's actually been the issue. It's like the reverse. They both played well at times, but the offense is where we have to play well. I feel like the defense has at least played well enough to keep you in games, but the offense has sometimes let them down and put them in. I would really say UCF and UCF and Kansas, they left the defense out to dry.
Yeah. Well, and SMU as well. I think we would agree with that game too, right? So I'm with you. Be aggressive in the passing game. Don't be dumb, right? We're not talking dumb, but be aggressive. Look, OSU runs that 3-3-5 kind of scheme. It's kind of weird. What will be interesting is how they use Colin Oliver, because I didn't even realize they've moved him to kind of more of an inside backer this season. But if you remember, man, him off the edge is pretty stinking lethal. He can wreak havoc, right? So But all that to say, they do these safeties deep, but they're aggressive safeties as well. One of the things that Kansas and the game I watched for them over and over, the tight end slash H back, whatever you want to call their guy on their roster, he hit them down the seam so many times because if there was any blocking action or any run action at all, the safeties just come flying up the field. And there was just a seam in behind it every time. Now, look, it's really interesting. I would say that OSU's defense it's a much more aggressive Iowa State defense, right? Iowa State will put the three safeties back, but they'll put them 15, 20 yards. And literally they want to force you to go an 80-yard drive at 6 yards a pop, right? All the way down. And then when the field gets small, they're going to make it really difficult for you, right, to score from that red zone area. OSU does the same. They lined up a ton against Kansas with three safeties, but more at like 10 to 12 yards. And any run action, they're humming down into that lane, right? And so you got to take advantage of that, right? RPOs, play action, throw the deep post over them. They are not playing cloud coverage, right? There are times where it's three deeper safeties and they're running cover one or cover zero, but they're giving like a 15-yard cushion to the receiver, right? And so you got to take advantage of those moments, put the ball in your playmakers' hands and give them a chance, man. And look, if Brennan Thompson's healthy, put him on the field and let him stretch the field. If you're going to play Gavin Freeman, do not jet sweep him. Jet sweep Farouk. Jet sweep Nick Anderson. Jet sweep Brennan Thompson and put him in that position and go. But use Gavin Freeman's speed to stretch the field. Put Gavin Freeman in that over route, right? All the way across the way. Those kinds of things. And then the guy to watch, man, 30, Colin Oliver's really good, but man, number 4, I think Martin's his name, their linebacker. Whoa. He comes with bad intentions and he can run. He can really, really run. But yes, look, this is not a team for OU right now that can line up and run the football. They just can't. So you're going to have to be aggressive in the pass game to loosen things up and create the lanes from there. And Dylan Gabriel is going to have to use his legs a lot in this game as well. I think those are kind of the keys for me as they go for this. But you better not hold back. The weather's going to be great. Don't let that be an issue. Be aggressive. And I'll say this, keep the foot on the gas pedal. If we can get up 14, 21 points on OSU, and they have to go away from the run game of Ollie Gordon, it's going to change things a lot for this football team, right? A lot. I feel much better them dropping back to throw the ball 40 times in this game than I do handing it off 35 times in this game, for sure.
Well, and I mean, I think the one thing we have to talk about real quick, too, is just, again, the dynamic of all of OSU has just changed so much from the beginning of the season because I mean you lose to South Alabama to now, so they figured a lot of things out. And I think a lot of that honestly is I do think their defense, while obviously their offense is what's more potent, I think they've figured out a way to get their defense to where it's stable, I guess would how I'd put that. Like it's a little bit more I don't know, consistent. I guess
it's
more
solid
consistent
and consistent. I think that's a great way to say it.
Yeah.
And look, and running backs too. The other thing I noticed in the Kansas game, they rally to the football great. OSU does, but they also miss tackles. I mean, the amount of tackles for loss missed that turned into 2-yard gains and 3-yard gains was evident. But you've got to be prepared and ready to run through the trash because if you do, there's opportunities for some big games, right? Big gains in the run game as well.
Also, real quick, Ross reminded me, I don't want to see Farouk at running back, period. I know that you don't have a problem with it. I just have a problem with it because it comes down to the whole scheme of things. As far as like Farouk at running back in itself isn't a problem. Farouk being at running back when he's a playmaker at receiver, or has shown that he can be, and you apparently have a whole stable of running backs behind him waiting to get on the field. Sorry, it doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense. I don't want to see
Here's
that.
here's where it makes sense to me. It still is keeping your playmaker on the field. And look, I understand right now if all these guys are banged up, you're thin at running back, especially if you really don't trust your freshman running backs. You probably trust Farouk a little bit more in there, so I get that. But here's my thing. If you're going to do that, then you need to line up 4 and 5 wide, right? With nobody in the backfield and make them think you're going to run a QB draw, whatever you're going to do, but spread them all out. And you do that for 1 or 2 plays, and now he comes into the backfield, right? Or you start a drive with him at running back, and you make them line up in that way, and now you spread out empty. You know what I'm saying? Like that tempo where you're not
Well, yeah,
substituting
I
backs,
like
like something like that. But not he doesn't need to get 10 carries a game or anything like that.
that's
No.
what I'm saying. I guess I should clarify. If he has a play, like if they bring him in some weird little package deal, cool, whatever. But like they've not done that, in my opinion.
Well, they
Most of the
have.
time they
Like
put
he
him in
only
there,
carried the ball like 3 times the last game, man. It's not like they're
but he was back there more than that. I feel like I don't know. It's just I feel like he needs to be a very uh, I don't know. I just don't think that him being back there is going to help this team win. That's my opinion. I not because I don't think he's a playmaker, but I just think it's wasting him playing in the backfield when he could be out wide, or you could have another running back there that's been waiting to get on the field. So,
well, we'll see. See how it goes. Who are your X factor players on the offensive side of the ball for this game?
um, I think I'm gonna go. Okay, I'm gonna go Caden Green.
Ooh,
Um,
nice.
just because again, I think he's outside of Guyton. Like I said it during the post Kansas thing, and I'll say it again. He has a high, in my opinion, he has a higher ceiling, or could have a higher ceiling than Guyton. He's not as good as Guyton is right now, but
Right.
that's to be expected. But he's the second best offensive lineman on this team, and it's not even close, in my opinion. So I think he's gonna have to have a big game. Like I said, where he's gonna have to be like I said, you really just gonna he's gonna have to eat again when he came into Texas,
Mm-hmm.
totally look like a different he leads. I think he gives them a little bit more physical edge, is what it feels like, which is
Yeah.
weird to say to somebody that isn't your center. But anyway, so yeah, Caden Green probably number one, and then probably two. I'm gonna go. Oh man, this is a tough one. Nick Anderson. I'll go Nick Anderson. Again,
Great call.
a guy that can go up and get some 50-50 balls, go up and get contested catches. He can, if he's playing one-on-one with a corner or whatever, it's throw the ball to him.
Yeah.
Um, and he didn't have a good, I mean, I would say he didn't have a good game, but he didn't get a chance to do anything against Kansas, right?
No.
So I want to see him just absolutely light it up. And again, I think he's got a real case. I mean, so far it's hard to argue that he hasn't been the best receiver on the field outside of Andrew Anthony, who's out.
Right. Right.
So I think those are my two guys. I mean, there's to be honest with you, I could give you a list of 10. Because again, I think the offense is where we're gonna win or lose this game. But again, I think that comes down to more play calling than it does performance. So
Sure. 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 For me, I'm going to go super random. But I do think that these two guys make massive impacts on the game if they are used right. Okay. And if they step up to the moment. Number one, I'm going to go offensive lineman as well, but I'm going to go Andrew Rain. And my reason that he is an X factor is if you go back to on the road at Cincinnati, there were a lot of nearly moments because the crowd got to him and the snaps were all over the place, right? Like snaps one right past Dylan Gabriel because he's telling him to pause and he doesn't see it and snaps it right past him. And luckily, Dylan Gabriel saves us, right, from giving up a touchdown or whatever. And there were several other snaps in that game that the crowd just got him off. False starts, snapping early, snapping late, all that. It's going to be nuts in that stadium. And even hearing Teddy today talk about that, like that place gets loud. and it gets intense in there, and it's going to this year. They want this one really, really, really bad. You can't be the reason that our offense is not getting going and not getting in the position it needs to because of the crowd noise, right? My number 2 guy, and I want to be very clear. When I say X factor, this guy needs to make 3 plays. 3 plays in the game, and they need to be 3rd and 6, and we need a real conversion. You're down on the goal line at the 10-yard line, and it's 3rd and goal, and you can't settle for a field goal, those types of things, and it's Austin Stogner. There is an opportunity in this game to play action and use Austin Stogner over the middle, because they are not going to respect him as a pass catcher, because I don't respect him as a pass catcher right now for this team. And those safeties come filling the hole like crazy. And if the run game is at all effective, they're going to come downhill to shut it down. And Austin Stogner needs to make some big plays over the middle for this team. And it will slow down those safeties dramatically if they will do it early. So that's mine. Any last thought on this game, Jared, outside of players, anything else that's going to be an impact on this game?
I mean, I think that it's going to be a game where, you know, this is, let me put it this way. The OSU fan base and the people I've talked to, this is their Super Bowl.
Mm-hmm.
And not only is it their Super Bowl, it's their Super Bowl for 100 and whatever years. They literally, I've heard multiple of them say, it doesn't matter what the record is. If we win the last one, then we win the series. That's how they view it.
Yes.
So they're going to want it.
Yeah.
And this is going to be a very good test to see if OU or if BV's culture and the leadership on this team is what we've been told it is.
Yeah. Yeah, I do believe that's a big one. And I think that it feels a little bit like with this team that to start the year, they knew that everybody said, you guys suck. And there was even a little bit of a belief on the team. If we don't play at 120% of what we are, we can't win a football game. And they played with that kind of mentality and that kind of edge. And since the Texas game, they've just kind of gone through the motions a little bit. They've been slow. They haven't been as physical, haven't been as aggressive, those kinds of things. They like this team needs to get in a meeting room and somebody look at them and go, here's the deal, guys. You're an average football team. You're an average football team. And if you don't choose to play outside of your minds emotionally and physically, you will not win another game this season. Like, you have to play with absolute reckless abandon. And yes, OSU, this is their Super Bowl, and they will be looking at this game as absolutely, this is the bragging rights for the next 200 years until we play this game again. And they will never let you live it down, despite the fact that the series is going to be 91-20 OU's direction. That's exactly how they're going to see it. And they've got to match that this week for sure. So, and then not only that, let's talk about this for a minute. This game has massive implications for the Big 12. And we talked about this a little bit post Kansas, but just to let you guys know where things are right now. Okay. You have OU, Texas, OSU, and Kansas State are all 4-1. All of those teams are. Iowa State is 3-2, right? Sitting at 5th place in the finals. But here's the deal. So you, of those top 4-1 teams, OU plays Oklahoma State, obviously, right? Oklahoma State, though, this is the only game they have left against one of the top 4 teams. Oklahoma State's schedule from here is OU, UCF, Houston, BYU. If they win this game, they have the clearest path to the conference championship game, bar none, right? OU has to play OSU, West Virginia, BYU, TCU. So a little bit similar, but I mean, with the way OU's playing right now, they got to win those all. But listen to Texas. Texas has to play Kansas State this week, then TCU, then they play Iowa State. And if Iowa State beats them, then you're going to have Texas and Iowa State with 2 losses in the conference, but ISU would have the tiebreaker over Texas, if that makes sense, right? Kansas State plays Texas, Baylor, Kansas, and Iowa State, right? So if Iowa State somehow goes on a run and beats if Kansas State beats Texas, right? Iowa State then goes back and beats Kansas State. You're going to have like 4 teams with a 3-2 or whatever and 2 record going into the championship game, and all the funky tiebreakers come out on this thing. I mean, it is wild. All the overlaps that are happening right now with the top 5 in the Big 12. If OU wants to ensure and really control its destiny, they got to win this game, man. They have got to win this game. And look, I was shocked that the college playoff committee put them at 10, right? Like, you win out, you beat Texas again, you beat whoever you play, because Kansas State's ranked, Kansas is ranked, OSU's ranked, Texas is ranked. You win out and go to the conference championship game and win the championship game, there is still a world where you could make the playoff. And I didn't think there was any way after we lost to Kansas. I didn't think there was any way possible at all for OU to find their way back in the playoff, but it's here.
Yeah, that's fair.
You know?
I mean, the thing is this is I'll give it to them. The Big 12 last year, Big 12 is going to be pretty wild.
Yes. It is a very tight pack. I don't think there's any playoff teams really in this group. Even Texas, I don't think is a true playoff contender, I guess I should say. But the log jam that is at the top is crazy. So absolutely crazy. Well, let's get off the game and let's talk something we did not talk on Sunday night because we were still too ticked about the game, but recruiting has still been very good to the Sooners so far. We have not talked about Michael Boganowski has committed to OU. Reggie Powers committed to OU all over the weekend. So you got commitments from both. Reggie Powers, by the way, 154 nationally on the composite, and number 11 at the safety position. He is actually like their 5th or 6th ranked highest recruit in the class. So that's a huge get. 6'1", 200. Really, really big get for OU. What do you think about these 2 guys for you, Jared?
I mean, yeah, I think that they're both playmakers. I think that Reggie Powers, I think, was a little bit of a surprise. I think like nobody thought we weren't in it, but you know,
well, such an awkward deal. Like, by the way, we didn't mention he was a decommit from Michigan State, right? He was a long time commit, and then when all the coaching firing and all that went down, kind of opened things back. So it kind of moved fast, I would say, right?
Yeah.
Like he was kind of off the radar, and then boom, it was like, oh, okay, like gotcha.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I think that's he's a good get. And then Boganowski, when you watch his film, it's like I don't care what his star rating is or what his position ranking is, that kid can ball. So I think they're both gonna be good guys. I mean, it's kind of funny because I think BV's shown it's gonna be interesting to see over the course of the next few years. I think BV is already showing that he can develop, him and his staff can develop.
Right.
But like really when you watch film on some of these guys, you're kind of going like, how is this kid not ranked higher?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's like, are they going to be that good at evaluation too?
Mm-hmm.
So we'll see. Like I said, I think that they're both great gets.
Yeah. And Boganowski, by the way, I would say his rating is low. Kansas football is not known to be a juggernaut. One,
right?
He plays in a really bad conference. If you watch the tape, you can just tell it's like he is better than everybody on the field. So it's hard to get a judge for just how athletic he is. But here's my thing. I'm with you. Here's what I love. I love the guys like him. He plays wildcat quarterback. He plays running back.
Right.
He plays wide receiver. He plays safety. Like, matter of fact, on defense, sometimes I'm not even sure what his position is. It's literally like they just say, you line up in between the hashes. Wherever the ball goes, just go find it and destroy it. Like, and that's kind of what he does. But when you can process that many positions and do that many things, it generally means you have a high football IQ, right? And so that's a big deal. Reggie Powers, man, has been like defensive player of his conference like 2 years in a row, and a very good conference in Ohio. I think it's a great get, and so I think those are big additions, especially for the defensive end. Now, kind of waiting in the wings, 2 offensive linemen, which I am all about offensive line recruiting right now. We need bodies. We need bodies that can move people. Grant Bricks seems to be trending OU. Nebraska is fighting hard for him. And then you have Eddie Pierre Louis, or EPL, as some people call him, out of Florida. Dude, I have no idea what's going on with that guy, man. Like, I have no idea.
Well,
Bricks, it has felt like OU is reaching as hard as they can, and he likes OU. He's just a homebody. So the question is going to be that he just doesn't care about the staff. He doesn't care about the development, and he wants to stay close to home, right?
well,
Like,
he's I mean, everything I've seen is recently that Nebraska is starting to trend to the lead on him.
yeah. I mean,
So he did just have a visit to Lincoln, I think this
yes,
last weekend.
he
So
did. He watched them beat Purdue, right? So maybe that impresses. Maybe the 18-wheeler, the Nebraska big rig 18-wheeler out in front of his high school is convincing, because I don't know, but it just depends on who you read, who you talk to. Some people still think OU's in the lead, and the Nebraska stuff is all just because he recently visited. I really don't
right.
know. Eddie Pierre Louis, man, I don't know either. Like, you hear his mama wants him close to home, so you hear the kind of that same thing with him, but Oregon's in there. So I don't know if that's true. Like, like there was a groundswell where it was like OU, 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 and now it seems like that's really cooled. I have no idea what to make of him. He physically, I love him. I want him in this class really bad, but we'll see. Grant Bricks, to me, it's really weird because Grant Bricks is the guy that everybody's really high on. Physically, he looks like he's got a long way to go before he is really a true Power 5 SEC lineman to me. Whereas Eddie Pierre Louis is a guy that you literally need to trim down and add more muscle to. And I prefer that starting position as opposed to a guy that we've got to try to put tons of weight on to get him ready to play SEC O-line. So, we'll kind of see what happens there. The last little note in recruiting that's very interesting. One Antonio Alfano, I don't know how to say it. Alfano is what I'm going to say. Recently today, actually this afternoon, tweeted that he was offered by OU. Now, you may not know this name, may not have heard of this name, because he hasn't really been anything relevant for almost 5 years. He was a part of the 2019 recruiting class, but was the number 1 overall prospect in 2019. Went to Bama. Bama said, "We're done with you," kicked him off the team. He's been to 2 JUCOs since, trying to find his way back in. I don't know. Feels like a reach, but worth it. I don't know how you feel about that one, Jared.
I mean, it's kind of like what we talked about where when we were talking about the Thunder, I think last pod, you recruit your own problem. So I'm hoping that's not what this is, right?
Yeah.
I think it's got to be a guy. I mean, it's hard to say. It's easy to look at that and say, well, he's just a problem child, or whatever. He's just caused issues. There can be a lot of things. It doesn't look good, clearly.
Right.
But I guess I wouldn't be against giving the kid a chance. So we'll see what happens with it. But I mean, yeah, it does feel like a little bit of a reach to me.
Yeah. I haven't looked at his tape or anything because it happened so late in the afternoon that he announced it. Doesn't seem like he's been a juggernaut, but at the same time, Oregon's offered him, Auburn's offered him. I mean, he's got a ton of offers. Maybe he's gotten his stuff together. And I would say this, if he has, and he has those tools, I would say that OU Soul Mission program is the best place to help him stay on track compared to anywhere else. So we'll
Right.
see what happens there. So Let's move into some more general college football. Did you see the Lane Kiffin slander this week?
Yeah, I saw a clip of that. Yes.
I love Lane Kiffin so much. So much.
Which is
Like,
weird to say because he's had a weird like character arc in our timeline, I guess. Because it's like he was so hated for so long and now he's just absorbed, like he's just accepted his role as being like a meme and just a troll that it's kind of become hilarious.
it's, I mean, yes, he's not a terrible human being. That's Tom Herman level. I wouldn't go there. But
Yeah.
he's a guy you don't like. But for the Twitter content, oh, he's totally entertaining, right? So
Yeah.
if you don't know what we're talking about, Lane Kiffin's number 10 ranked Ole Miss team is going to go play the Aggies this week. And he was recently asked about being top 10. For 3 straight years now, his team has been ranked in the top 10 while he's been there. This was Lane Kiffin's response. Well, I think it's kind of neat. I guess 3 straight years in the top 10. Uh, I guess it's kind of neat, sorry, to be in the top 10 3 straight years, but it doesn't matter to me except for what you finish. So it's good. It brings some attention to the program. And to be able to do that, especially as you're going against a program that normally you would think would be a team in the top 10 3 years in a row based on their roster. That says a lot about your players, coaches, fans, but though, what does it matter until you get to the end? So that's our goal, is to keep getting better and winning games, as we try to achieve our goals and not let anyone else get to theirs. And apparently Jimbo said that their goal is to be bowl eligible. I mean, I love it.
Dude,
Absolutely love it.
how do you think, by the way, can we just talk about the like that because Jimbo's goal is to be bowl eligible, which I kind of get where he's coming from. I guess that's your first goal of the season, right? Or whatever. But you're paying a man a king's ransom to say his goal is to be bowl eligible.
Yeah. No, you can't say that. No. Like, let's be honest. BV says this all the time. Right now, our goal is to be 1-0 this week. That's what you say. But he also is very clear. Our goal is to win championships here. That's what OU does. When you're getting paid 100 and whatever $1 million on a guaranteed contract, and you have 3 top 10 recruiting classes, including the highest rated recruiting class in history in one of those 3, you do not say our goal is to be bowl eligible. What you say is our goal is to beat Ole Miss this week and continue that on out. That's what you say. You do not say the goal is to be bowl eligible. That's a trash statement, man. And it's deaf. It's what it is. It's deaf to what you should be. And I think it's an insult to those players as well. I mean, I get where he's coming from, but you cannot say it that way.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's anytime Jimbo can get slammed by anybody, I'm probably here for it. I think
Oh,
Jimbo is not I don't know. We've talked about that. Jimbo, I don't think is a bad human being, but I also don't think he's a good human being. If that makes sense. I just think he's more than okay to let things happen that he knows shouldn't happen.
Jimbo's just a car salesman, right? Like, that's what he is. Like, he's just the used car
Yeah.
salesman guy. Whereas like Tom Herman, like genuinely was a horrible human being, right? Like,
Well,
like,
that's what I mean. Like Tom Herman would be the guy that'd be in the locker room encouraging them to do things that like that were bad or
yeah,
negative or whatever. I think Jimbo is the guy that is completely aware that certain things happen and just doesn't care to stop it.
yeah, I don't even know that much like that happens. Like I said, I just think that he's a,
Well, I mean, look, he's the reason I say that is he's so like look at how Florida State went down and how it became such a
yeah,
dumpster fire, and then really the same thing's kind of playing out at Texas A&M. It's like you have a spoil like you've got more 5 stars on your roster than I think like pretty much anybody but Georgia or something at this
right.
point, and you are where you are. So anyway,
Yeah,
it's just the whole thing just kind of feels weird. But anyway,
absolutely. Well, let's get to our picks. We've been running long. Let's do this thing. Big games this week. Let's start with Kansas State at Texas, Jared. Texas at home, favored by 4. What are you taking?
Oh, so it's gonna be a good game, actually. I'm gonna go. Give me Kansas State.
I'm with you, and I'm picking Kansas State to win straight up. I'm going to still
Yeah.
take the points, but I think they are going to win straight up in this game. They are playing very good football, and they've gotten healthy.
Well, I
People have
also
missed that they were not healthy for a big run of that stretch.
it's gonna come down to Will Howard and how he plays, right? Like
Sure.
when he's not played well, they've been very bad.
Well, and let's
So
be clear. I mean, Texas is going to be playing without Quinn Ewers, and I think we saw last week that Quinn Ewers is the better quarterback between Quinn and Malik Murphy. So we'll see. Maybe unless they decide to put Manning out there, who knows? But we'll go from there. Another big one, Mizzou at Georgia. Georgia favored by 15.5 as of today. Who are you taking?
Georgia.
Yeah, me too. I don't even think this game is going to be
Like I think
close.
Mizzou's a better team than we expected them to be.
100%.
But I also think, for one, I'm gonna cheer against what's their coach's name? Dirk is it almost yeah,
Drinkowitz,
whatever.
Drunkowitz.
Dorkowitz.
Yeah.
I hope that guy loses every right sock and has, just to
I
annoy the crap out of
You
him.
know, it's funny. Teddy said that on his pod today. He goes, like the guy's actually coached really well today. You have to give that to him. He goes, but man, something about that guy, like he just drives you nuts. Like you do not want to. I'm like, it's because he's so arrogant, man. He just presents himself.
He's got such like a lack of self-awareness, I think is his issue. So
Oh, that's crazy. The big one in the Pac-12 this week, Washington at the intimidating confines of the Coliseum. -3 is the line for Washington versus USC. Who are you taking?
Washington.
Washington.
Well, you could give USC. I mean, I know Washington's not had a couple of good games. And I think their defense is probably needs a little bit of help. But yeah, I just think Washington's gonna absolutely stomp USC.
Yeah, it's funny. It's not like they held like Oregon to nothingness, right? But when they played Oregon, they were so physical defensively. I mean, there was some heads knocking in that game. And it doesn't feel like they've really been back to that since. They've kind of are in that OU mode ever since they won the big game. They've just kind of been riding out. I think they get up for this game. I think they go crazy. I'm going to take Washington as well. I just don't think if they bring that physicality, I don't see USC keeping up with it. Another big one, LSU at Bama. LSU at Bama. Who are you taking, Jared? -3, by the way, for Bama.
Bama. If anybody can make the Bama offense look good, it's LSU's defense.
Yeah, that's fair. But man, the LSU defense or offense is so good. So good. What the heck? I'm going to go opposite with you just to try to gain a game because you got to lead on me. I'm going to take LSU in the points. That's what I'm going to do. LSU in the points. And
Okay.
last but not least, the final Bedlam. OU -5.5 at Stillwater. Who are you taking?
I'm going to man, I gotta think about this one. There's two thoughts in my head, and I'm trying to decide which one I want to choose more. You know what? I'm gonna keep going my sunshine pick. Give me OU in the points.
All right. Well, I, on the other hand, am going to go against the boys. I'm going to take OSU in the points. I think that this is a very tight game. Not to mention the last time I picked against our boys, they did pretty well. So ever since I've started picking them, it's been a problem. So, but I think this game is going to give them a lot of problems. I think the crowd is going to give them a lot of problems.
What's your
Um,
do you have some
um,
score predictions?
uh, yeah, I didn't get your score prediction either, but I will give mine first. I will say that this game is going to go. I think this game goes 33-30 OSU.
Okay. I'm gonna go. This game is going to be 38-31.
38-31 for the good guys.
Yeah.
Okay. Got it down. We shall see. Be interesting. Troy, by the way, is picking us to lose as well. Troy is taking 34-31 OSU. It's his pick on the day. We talked earlier on the phone. Although Troy also said, he said, Monday, I had us winning by 20. Tuesday, I had us losing by 10. Now I'm back to us losing by 3. Like, he's going back and forth on this game. And I kind of feel that way a little bit too. The momentum is going to mean so much.
Well, I mean, it's the thing we didn't talk about is, again, this is another one of those games where it's like, here's where I partially agree with the troll of this isn't a rivalry,
Yeah.
right? It definitely is more of a rivalry for Oklahoma State than it is OU, but to act like we don't want to win this game more than others is false.
Yeah.
So, but this is another game where you can throw everything out the window. There's been times that OSU's come in and just knocked OU on its butt whenever
Yeah.
OU should have dominated, and vice versa, right? So
Right.
there was I don't even it wasn't even that long ago that the game was like, everybody thought this game was going to be close, and then it was like 60 to whatever. I think
Right.
it was the year. I think it was like one of Spencer Sanders years or something. Everybody thought that it was going to be a dogfight, and it was going to come down to a last minute field
Yeah.
goal, and then it was like a blowout. So anyway,
Yeah.
just keep that in mind.
Yeah. Absolutely. Let's close up with this. The Thunder bounced back with a win this weekend, but then played the Pelicans tonight and lost. So they are now 3-2 on the season, losing 110 to 106 to the Pelicans tonight. Here's the number for me, man. 22 offensive rebounds for the Pelicans. Yikes. I was not able to watch the game. I believe you were, Jared. What did you see in the game? What was lacking for our Thunder tonight as you watched it?
I mean, there's a few things. I mean, Chet had moments that he looked phenomenal, right? But for one, Shea was actually kind of banged up. I actually stepped away for like 5-10 minutes, and in that 5 or 10 minutes, Shea hurt his ankle a little bit. It looked like rolled his ankle a little bit. So he was a little shook, and you could tell that he was, when he was walking to the bench, he was kind of gimpy.
Right.
So that didn't help. But that all happened in the fourth. I mean, it was, to me, from what I saw, it was just not consistent. There was, like I said, there was times where they looked, honestly, like, there was a time in that game where I was like, dude, or Oklahoma City looks like the team, like better team, heads and tails, and you know what I mean? And then 5 minutes later, I'm like, what are you doing? You know what I mean? Just not physical. I think Chet, I think he is a guy that's like physical at times, and other times just kind of disappears in that regard. So, but yeah, I mean, it's a lot of I think that's the thing. So I'll just say that, I guess, to keep it simple and short, physicality, I felt like was lacking a little bit in this game. I mean, you are going up against Zion, who is a massive human being.
Right.
But you know what I mean? It was just, I think as the game wore on, it was kind of weird. It was like watching a football team just run over you repeatedly until the point where you can't be physical anymore and you're just beat to the ground.
Yeah.
That's kind of sort of how it felt to me. So, but I mean, also, we also have to keep this all in perspective. Extremely young team, right?
Yeah.
Chet's first season,
Yeah.
really. So I think some of the errors that he made are correctable. So, but yeah, I mean, even really, honestly, what was crazy is they were down. I think it was like there was like 2 or 3 minutes left. They were down like, I want to say like 16 points or something. Well, something, wow, maybe not that many, but they were down a decent bit. And like I said, then Chet was like making play after play after play.
Yeah.
And so, again, it's just being consistent throughout that. I mean, they were able to fight back, and they were right there. It was actually 10, I think 108 to 106. They had the ball, they called the timeout, and they didn't. I think Shea took a shot, and Shea probably, honestly, Chet should have taken a shot. Um, but yeah, Shea took the shot and it was very contested. So it is what it
Yeah.
is. So
Yeah. Well, and the other thing I know that I noticed through the box score, I think like of our starting five, I think four of them were like 2 of 16 from 3-point range. And I think as a
yeah,
team, we shot 20%
yeah.
from 3-point range. If you look at all the numbers, we definitely lost the battle on the boards. We destroyed them at the free throw line. We destroyed them at field goal percentage overall, but the 3-point percentage just killed us. And so they got 14 more shots than we did in the game. We only lose by 4 points because really of our 3-point shooting. It really, really hurt us this game. And so that was a real bummer to see as well. But yeah, I think, look, we know Chet still got to add more strength, more weight. He plays guys like Zion. When he plays guys like Embiid, I think he's going to really struggle on the boards and playing down low on the defensive side of things. And so again, a little bit of a frustrating loss, but I think they're still figuring some things out. And hopefully they'll get there. And I just look, Chet shot the ball too good all year, and so is Shea. I just don't see Shea shooting that way. But again, the one thing you can say, I think I would say overall too, in the two losses, Shea played horrendous in one game. He played bad tonight. This team goes as Shea goes. Shea has to play great for this team to win. And tonight was just good for Shea. And this team still needs him to play at a much higher level, at a very high level, I should say, for them to win games. So,
Well, and real quick, I think that's the other thing is they've got to. There were several plays where they ended up having to take more of a contested shot, and there was a play that they had a better shot, like a takeable shot, and they passed it. So it seems
yeah.
like they've almost gotten past the point of being, like we used to talk about how they were so good at passing the ball, and it's like
Mm.
now they've gotten so good that they do it too much.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Take the
I think
shot
that
when it's there.
yeah, there was I can think of several series where it was like they were, one pass too much sort of
Yeah.
thing.
That makes sense. And that'll be something that I do think is going to correct itself as the season goes along. They get used to having so many um, playmakers on the floor and ball handlers on the floor. Your dogs in the background are cracking me up.
Yeah.
So that'll be good. Anything else for you?
No, apparently my dogs found like Florida drugs somewhere in the backyard because they all lost their minds. Anyways, yeah, no, man, it's good. We're in November, so I'm hyped for like I said, basketball is good and going. I got to actually watch a Thunder game. That was neat. Um, but yeah, I mean, honestly, and then like I still haven't seen Oppenheimer, so that comes out soon. Talk a little media stuff. Um, I don't know. There's a lot of good stuff. Wrexham, I actually missed. I think the new Wrexham came out today, and I haven't watched it.
Believe so. I'm way, way behind. I've got to do a lot of work to
By
get
the way,
caught up.
they won they played Notts County, who was the team that
Yep.
they had to battle to get promoted last season. They just beat them, and then I think Mullen might be out or somebody might be. I saw a deal the other day that Mullen might be out, or somebody, one of their best players. I can't remember who might be out for a few games.
I might have
Um,
missed it.
so, but yeah, it's
I know they tied it today and we're going into extra time. I didn't see how it ended today, but I do know that they're still their third. Well, I don't know after today, but I believe that they are still third on the table in League Two, or in National League. And so,
yeah,
um,
they're up there. I don't know what their exact rank is.
but man, crazy. I mean, I need to look and see. I'm not even sure exactly how many games they have left, but it's nuts to think that they are in a position that if they get on a run and get hot, they could literally get promoted again, which is just insane. Just
Yeah.
insane that might happen. So, really fun stuff.
One other thing, a little off subject, a little something for me, not for you. I mean, you don't care, but Formula One is going to Vegas. It's not this weekend, but next weekend. But you need to start dude, I'm telling you, like, yeah, I wish I know I don't know if we could say this on the pod, but we're going to Vegas for your 45th birthday,
Yeah,
right?
we are.
Um, I almost wish that it was like my 45th and we were going to the Vegas Grand Prix because dude, like I'll have to send you the stuff. Like that whole, like, they are doing it huge in Vegas.
Oh yeah.
Um and it's going to be nuts. Like the amount of shows that are going on, they'll have concerts and everything else. It's going to be wild. So
Yeah. It looks pretty cool. I'm not gonna lie. I've seen all the advertisements. I keep checking stuff to see when we're going. We're going for March Madness. So that's why we're gonna be out there. It should be fun to see what it's like out there for that. So should be a really, really good time. But speaking of that, we're having a great time here. Again, don't forget to like, subscribe, follow, do all the things. Help us out. Look, the more subscribers, the more followers, the more comments, and the more interactions we have, the more opportunities we have to bring on some people and make this thing even better. And so please help us with that. We would love for you to do that and to help us in that way. Again, we're just doing this for fun and we're having a great time. We hope you are too. I'm Daryl. That's Jared. And we will talk to you guys later.
bye, Baker.